Welcome to Basic Graffiti Removal Methods. We've all seen graffiti in our districts, whether it's painted on brick surfaces on walls in your district. Sometimes you'll see it on metal utility boxes in your district with paint or with markers. Other times you'll see it in the forms of stickers or graffiti tags all over your mailboxes and other utility boxes. The first example is going to be taking graffiti off of a masonry or brick surface. And the first thing you want to do whenever you're going to deal with any kind of graffiti removal is you want to prep your area by putting up your working signs and making sure the area is clear from pedestrians while you're doing the job. There are a couple different kinds of chemicals you can use to remove graffiti from masonry or brick. The one we're going to use today is called Taganator. There are some other kinds you can use. The world's best graffiti mover makes a effective chemical to remove graffiti. The thing to remember when using these chemicals is to take the necessary precautions and follow all safety steps when using any kinds of chemicals. Now, when using Taganator or the world's best, you apply it to the surface using a roller or a paintbrush or even a spray bottle. It depends on the porousness of the surface and how bumpy or smooth that surface is. You completely coat the entire surface of the spray painted or painted area with the chemical. Make sure you get it all completely covered and saturated completely, and do it in a large pattern. Don't just outline the letter or the number. Do it a large block area, and then you let it soak for a while. Now that the Taganator has had about 15 or 20 minutes to really soak into the graffiti tag, that's when you power up the power washer and begin to spray off the affected area with the pressure washer. Nice even stripes back and forth with adequate pressure will eventually remove the graffiti tag from the surface of the brick or masonry. Just keep going over and over it until you get it all gone. If you find that after your first attempt hasn't removed it all, retreat it with Taganator, wait 15 or 20 minutes, and do it again. And repeat the steps until it is completely gone. But eventually you will remove that graffiti tag from that brick or masonry surface. Okay, next we're going to cover removing graffiti on a surface that's not masonry or brick, but it's on a surface that's kind of sensitive, and you're not able to take it off normally because you may take the paint off beneath the tag. So what we're going to do in those particular instances is we're going to try to match the paint color as best as we can and paint over the tag. Now, before you do anything like that, you want to make sure that you get a good photo of it. You want to make sure that you got the permission of the property owner before you paint anything on top of their building. And by doing that, you're going to go out and get a release of liability form signed by the property owner. And you're going to do this for any kind of graffiti removal if it's not on public property. So it's very important to follow those basic steps. Get a photo, get the release formed, and then you can get to work. One thing that you're going to want to try to find is what's called a paint sample fan deck. Now, a paint sample fan deck can be obtained from your local paint store. If you get your Taganator or your graffiti chemicals from your paint store, you can usually ask them and they'll give you one for free. Usually the vendors will supply them with the fan deck. Fan decks are used when you're out comparing the colors of the area where you're going to paint with what paint you may have in stock. If you don't have it in stock, you have to go buy some. Using the fan deck will help you match the color as close as you possibly can so that when you come back and paint over the tag, the color is very similar and it's not very noticeable.
There's different kinds of Taganator. That particular Taganator is made from masonry, so it's brick, concrete, that type of stuff. They make a sensitive surface remover. Taganator does for metal, silver boxes, that type of stuff. It's different than that, but it's still Taganator. It's a different product. Tag away, right?
All right, next step, he's going to go ahead and box off the area where he's going to paint.
Next, you're going to mask the area to keep your job nice and neat. It's not always necessary to mask, especially if your paint matches really closely, but it's a good idea to get in the habit of masking just so you keep your job nice and neat. And you also don't want to paint directly over the letters of the tag so that when you see what you've done, all you see is that you've you see an outline, darker outline of the letters. If you do it in blocks much larger than the tag, it's much less noticeable when you look at it from a distance.
One coat and it covers it. Other times you're going to come back and have to hit it again with a second coat in order to fully cover the graffiti.
So once you're all masked and ready to go, you're ready to start painting. So using the paint, just take it nice and easy and make sure you cover everything very thoroughly. You don't want the paint to bleed through from underneath so that it shows. It may take you several coats to get it all covered up. Now in this example, he's only painting over the T so that you can see the difference in the before and after shot. But normally when you would do something like this, you would completely mask the entire tag and paint over it all at the same time.
In the real world, you would box off the entire thing and do it at once.
After a couple of coats, letting it dry, you should be ready and it should be looking pretty good.
Great. The next step is going to be for some of the harder to remove stickers. You're going to want to use a plastic scraper, and you can use something like a WD-40 or a Goo Gone. Why are we using a plastic scraper instead of a metal scraper? That's exactly right. Especially when you're dealing with the front of the sign where the labeling is and things like that. WD-40 typically won't affect the paint that's on the sign. What the WD-40 does is it helps break down the glue. And then obviously you're using a plastic scraper. You're much less likely to actually scratch the surface of the sign with plastic. You can go ahead and demonstrate that. And I know these paper post office stickers are one of the more difficult to remove. They tend to shred, as you try to peel them off.
You almost got to treat him and leave him for a little while.
And he's just going right at it, spraying it and then scraping it off, but a lot of times you might want to spray it with the WD-40, let it sit, let it do its job, and then kind of come at it. You might have to hit it a couple times. And this goes back to what Charlie was saying about doing a good job of removing graffiti. A lot of times when an ambassador finishes with a sign, there's glue left behind, or they've scraped the sign. We really want to make sure that we're doing this well, and we're leaving no residue behind when we're done. Another advantage of this method, this is something that any ambassador can be trained on. It could be a safety ambassador, it could be a clean ambassador. Anyone can carry a can of WD-40 and a plastic scraper with them.
You guys ever heard of a paper tiger for removing wallpaper? You go out, they're like $2. Go to the local paint store and buy a couple paper tigers. It looks like a hamburger bun, and underneath there's these little serrated wheels, and you just go over the sticker first. It'll punch a bunch of holes in it so that the stuff will penetrate behind it, and then just let it soak on there for 5 or 10 minutes. It'll come off easier.
You can also use what's referred to as a gum buster to help remove stickers from signs that are very difficult to remove with a scraper. The gum buster uses water and steam, very hot steam, to dissolve the sticker and help it to come off the sign much easier. Now, gum busters are available in a couple of different styles. Check with your regional vice president and see if a gum buster might be something that would work in your district. So to wrap up, let's cover one more thing. The tags you find on telephone poles, electrical boxes, sometimes you find them on mailboxes that are done with markers or paint. A good way to remove those from those types of surfaces is with the graffiti wipes you can get from Cosgrove. Sometimes you can get graffiti wipes from your local Glidden dealer, or even the graffiti spray that's supplied to us by Cosgrove. Those are ways that you can get the graffiti off of those smooth surfaces. And always be sure to get before and after pictures whenever you remove graffiti. There's no way to tell if it was done if you don't get the before and after pictures and prove what you've done in your downtown districts. That's hugely important.